Welcome to my Autism Tribe, a community of advocates that are linked by autism but bound by strength. This is a time to find our sounding board and shoulders that help us carry life's load without the fear of criticism. We give and receive. We nurture and empower. I'm your host, Susan Scott. We're here today with Erin Stearley. She's a wife and mom, former ER nurse, and current CEO of her household. Her and her husband have 3 absolutely beautiful children. But 4 years ago, her and her husband received life-changing news that their son had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And I know Erin personally. Being a fellow autism mom, our sons were in school together, and I thought she would be such a pleasure to have on the show. Really, we have had times together just as autism moms. And so, today I just really wanted to talk about kind of why having an autism tribe, if you will, is so important.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, obviously, it's important no matter where you are in life or your children are to have a tribe. But it's so life-changing when you get that diagnosis of autism or any kind of special needs. And I think really when you find that tribe of women that have gone through that, you need that because those are the women who know what it's like to actually mourn for your child and not mourn for them, because it's a physical death, but it's, the loss of the life that you had anticipated, that you had expected, that you'd dreamt of. And I just think that being autism moms, we know what that's like, to experience that grief and to be able to say that out loud and people don't look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, I think even before my son, Alex, was diagnosed, I knew that there was something wrong. There was something different. And I knew that most likely it was autism. But when you do receive the diagnosis, those words from a doctor that says that is indeed what is it, for me, it felt like I'd been hit by a Mack truck. I was really kind of struggling to find someone to talk about. I have an amazing family and amazing friends. And, they were there kind of emotionally there, for support. But I didn't have a group of people that I could turn to that got it. People would invite us to go places, but if it was really loud there, having to say, thanks, but I don't think we're going to be able to go because it's so loud. And then being really able to understand that. Anytime that you and I have gotten together with a group of girls and stuff, it's so funny because we're all like, oh yeah, no, I've totally been there and done that. Oh yeah, that happened last week. Or this may be what you have to look forward to. And, there are, and I say that, not saying that, we get together and talk about all of the challenges, but because there's also beauty in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. I think that having this group of women, it not only support and information for each of us, it helps us grow. I think there's been times I've been able to say I'm really sad and I don't feel like I'm in a good place, just sort of the pity party of why me and this isn't good and what's happening and is it ever going to be good, to just have women say okay, we hear you and we've been there too. But then to watch the, growing period and the endurance and the strength develop and where you really kind of transform this situation into seeing far more blessings than anything else.
I think too, we're talking as autism moms. They're autism dads out there, right? Because your husband's one of them. I think it's just as women, just because most of us have the gift of gab and we love to talk about it, especially if it's our children, but autism dads are out there too. And I think it's important for them as well to have just kind of that support. I think it's interesting from the dad side of things. And I only say this just because I know that it was somewhat of a struggle for Alex's dad, because I think, having a son and having those expectations, or, those dreams of playing baseball or playing catch in the backyard, and that may happen, but it may not happen. And with that diagnosis, dads have some emotional challenges too that they have to deal with. So it's important for them to find their group too.
Yeah, extremely important for them to have that. And, we face some of those struggles too with Braden's dad. Just as you said, it's very hard. I mean, this is like their little boy, and they too shared in those dreams and
Mhm.
expectations and the mourning period of what's happened to, life that I
Right.
dreamt of. So yeah, I think that it's been, awesome for both Seth and I to have other people in our life we can support, and they can support us in return and just understand what we're going through.
Sure. Having a significant other as part of
Mhm.
your tribe, is important. Of course, they're your teammate. But I think it's also important too, you're with your significant other. Of course, you're raising your child, and or maybe you don't have a significant other and you're raising the child alone. Just being able to find
Mhm.
those outside, maybe non-biased people that you can kind of turn to. And I think for me, when I really kind of started seeing this group of autism moms form here where we live, I was so excited, for one, because it's a group of people, and it allows me to be able to just kind of hang out and have friends that get it. But what I found was all of the moms, like, their children were in different phases. Like, there was one mom that she had just received the diagnosis. And then another mom that had been living with a diagnosis
Right.
that her son had received, and 3, 4, 5 years into it, everyone was
Mhm.
able to support each
Mhm.
other. It's like, okay, you know what? 2 years ago we went through this and we got through it, or we're still dealing with it, and this is what we're doing, to kind of cope. And it was such a
Mhm.
great, I mean, I walked away the last time that we got together. I walked away and I felt so filled. My heart was just overflowing, just with gratitude that I
Mhm.
had found this group of people that just accepted me and accepted my son.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, it's been so wonderful. When we got the diagnosis for Braden, almost 4 years ago now, I mean, I just remember that initial, like, "Well, what do we do?" We didn't know anybody else, or
Yeah.
we didn't think we did know anybody else that had been through this. And it's just like, we were so fortunate and so blessed to be, like, just put, in the right place at the right time and on the right path with people that could really guide us and lead us. But there were, a couple years in there where we really didn't have a tribe, as far as an autism tribe to be a part of. And there was such an immense need for that. And I know for my heart, I didn't want other parents to feel like so lonely, and other moms to feel so, like, lonely going through this process, and, like, all, like, the questions, and, like, what do I do, and, like, where do you start, right? Like, I remember thinking all this, like, information just starts flooding you, and you're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, what's the most important thing to
Yeah.
start with? And, what do we do for this? And do we need this? And do we need that? And, and then you also have, like, on the peripheral, like, everyone offering their opinions of what you should or shouldn't be doing. So to just, I know for, the tribe that you and I kind of are referring to, it really just started out like a few of us. Our kids were in school together, and it just grew and grew. And I had shared with you earlier, I mean, I get contacted by people that
Mhm.
are like, well, so and so gave me your name, and we just got a diagnosis of autism, and I don't know where to start or what to do. And and not by any means do I have any expertise, other than the fact that, like, I'm navigating this journey too, and I can show up with a bunch of moms that are also navigating that journey and make it just a little less lonely.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point because we're all in this journey and our journeys are completely different. It's like every single one of our kids are completely different in their sensitivities and how they respond to treatments, and then everyone has an opinion or a recommendation, and most of the
Yeah.
time, 99.9% of the time, those opinions and recommendations are coming from a really good place. But when you find your true group of people, your tribe, I think a good tribe is not going to have some of those criticisms or judgments that some other people may have. And we're all kind of in this thing together. And there's something special about having a group of people that you can show up to and completely just download. You will never believe what kind of day that I had. And sometimes you don't even need somebody else to respond. It's just to have someone listen, and just knowing that there is someone that, is just gonna care enough to listen.
Absolutely. And I mean, I do think it's great because the tribe of women, we're all on very different journeys, and in some cases have chosen very different treatment options. And just seeing that all brought to the table and hearing like just different perspectives and the conversation, and just like you said, like a no judgment zone. Like, I get it. I get why you would choose to do that. And I can get your level of despair, and why you feel like this is important. And it's really amazing and fulfilling in so many ways.
And the last time that, we were together, I think bringing up different viewpoints, because sometimes I feel like we are so in the day to day and the keeping our head above water, not only as a parent, but most of us are professionals, and, it's just like, oh my gosh, we're also making dinner for our other children, and we are wives and husbands, and we have other responsibilities in life. We're sisters and brothers, and so I think, but when you start hearing different viewpoints too, they're not necessarily opinions, but when we were together the last time, I had mentioned to another mama that I have never whispered the word autism in front of my son Alex, that I've, spoken very out loud about it, still being aware of what words I'm pairing with the word autism, but I've never whispered it. And I remember she was like, wow, she said, I never thought about it, like that. And so, that was eye-opening to me, but so many other things were said during our talks that opened my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I hadn't thought about it that way. And it was so refreshing. I think I'm constantly amazed and reminded that, autism is something that is really can affect anyone. And when I had received, my son's diagnosis, and I was really kind of struggling with, I didn't feel ashamed, but I didn't know how to talk about it. And I never wanted my son's diagnosis to precede him, that it was, hi, this is Alex. And then if someone had questions, then I would talk to them about it. But when I started having a louder voice and started talking about, very proudly, my son, who's absolutely the most beautiful thing and my most prized possession. When I started talking a little bit more openly about autism, I was amazed at how many people had been touched by autism. And it was literally at school, at work,
Yes.
in church. You can find a tribe anywhere, really. And this tribe of people, what makes it so beautiful is that all of us are from different walks of life, and we have found each other in the most unique way, and we're linked together by this diagnosis. And we may not have been friends, or our paths may not have crossed otherwise, but we are we're strong. We're strong for our kids, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, just to be able to support each other and celebrate each other, and not just each other, but our kids too, to really hear the struggles going on and
Mm-hmm.
different families and see the strength and overcoming those. And it's beautiful to watch and to take part in. And I do totally feel like autism needs a much louder voice, which is so great that you're doing this. But I know for us initially in the diagnosis, I mean, we were kind of quiet about it because we were so worried that it would box Braden in and that all people would ever see was autism. We wanted so much more for him.
Yep.
And I think that there was some, just for me, I don't know that shame would be the correct word, but in part of my mourning process, I just went through that process of asking myself, like, what did I do wrong? Like, could I have done something differently? And I really had to come to a place, and by God's grace I did, of acceptance that, it didn't really matter. And that I, most likely will never have all those answers, but God had blessed me with this beautiful child. And there was a reason I was his mom, and I just needed to move forward with that. And as that acceptance came, I did get louder with my voice about autism. And I know that, not everybody's there yet, or that's not everybody's way of doing things. And that's totally fine. But for me, there was such a freedom in just putting it out there. This is my son, Braden. He does have autism, because there's some quirky things he does, and I see people staring, and so sometimes it's just like, yeah, he has autism and he's awesome. And, he does some quirky things, but it's what makes him great. And I've said time and time again to people, and especially, no matter where you are in the journey, I think it helps I would change things about our situation to make life easier for Braden. But, in all actuality, when I look at it, I wouldn't change a thing about the fact that he has autism, because I think there's so many wonderful things about Braden we would have never known, if he wasn't just the way he is, just the way God gave him to us.
Sure.
We have some really hard days and some really hard, things ahead of us. But he's awesome. He's a beautiful, beautiful child that blessed us, immensely. And, I really, I think takes time, and I have bad days to really come around to just, these kids with this diagnosis of autism, that's just one little piece of them. There's so much more there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you said that when you receive Braden's diagnosis, that, you spent a while just really trying to, what did I do wrong? And I tell people that I spent the next year researching on ways to blame myself. It's like, okay, I'm going to Google this and see if what I did when I was 10 years old had anything to do with, I was almost obsessed with trying to find a way to blame myself. And then you're right. Once I wrapped my head around it, my voice became stronger and stronger and stronger. And, and then I'm like, okay, I am so proud. When I started seeing Alex, I thought about this. I said, you know what? Some of the challenges that Alex goes through every single day, and yet he is, fortunately, he's such a happy kid. I'm like, wow, he's going through this. I have to go through this. I am going to be his voice until he has a voice, if he ever has a voice. And we've been blessed that Alex has found his voice. And I remember saying to many people so many times, I can't wait. And I only pray that I will be able to hear my child say, I love you. And so when that did happen, it was like my tribe, they were the first ones I wanted to share it with. It's like, okay, forget the people at work, I want to reach out to my people and you'll never believe what happened. He said, I love you.
And just, just to be able, whether it's your child or someone in your tribe's child, just to be able to like really understand and empathize with like the depth of that milestone, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, literally, it's like we give each other like digital high fives all the time. It's like, and it's amazing. I feel so blessed to have found my tribe, and
Oh, yeah.
I want our tribe to grow, right? And it will. But Erin, I thank you so much for not only being a great friend, but just
Oh,
being a great
you
mama to
too.
Braden. And I want you to just keep up the great work because I think you're wonderful, and I know Braden does.
You're wonderful too. And I'm so thankful that, you're being a big voice for all of us right now.